Welcome to the Jeff Hagee Show. I'm excited today to have Amy P. Kelly with me. Amy and we go back, I guess it's been a couple years, and it's been something I've been talking to her for a couple years about. I said, I need to get you on my show. And so I'm so happy that she's here with me today and we can talk about the things she's doing. She's an amazing person. Tell you a little bit about her. She's an author. She's an entrepreneur. She is now let me make sure I get this right. You're the VP of consulting with the Jon Gordon Companies. Am I right there?
That is correct.
Right. And well, let me turn it over to you for a minute, Amy. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and then we'll get into this.
Yes. So thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you for having me. We were introduced by Tammy with Amy I think it was about 2 years ago. And, another person that I love the work that you two are doing together to help confidence and mindsets and athletes. And I'm a person who believes in people and organizations and helps them grow. And I have been in corporate roles. I'm now a consultant. Like you said, I work with the Jon Gordon Companies, doing consulting work with all different types of leaders, organizations, and teams all over the world. Very rewarding. And I definitely believe that we all have a purpose, and the power is on the inside of us to fulfill that purpose. And that's what I'm walking out in my life and work as a wife, a mom, a business person, and a community member. And we get to do some of that work together. We've connected on mindsets and the role that they have in our, how we drive increased performance and effectiveness in our world and who we are. So that's a little bit about me.
Yes, thank you. And you're a great connector as well. Tammy has connected me to some of the amazing people, but as you were talking about that, in in the Confident Athlete program, on this show, in different things that I've done a lot with Ryan Godfredson. You're the one that connected me with Ryan Godfredson, so thank you. And many others that I'm connected with, and probably the next episode after this was a connection from Amy as well. So excited about that and really appreciate that. So thank you. And as you were talking, I was thinking, because over the last 2 years there's been a lot that's happened, and I wish I could say that I'm the guy that I never live with regrets, but one regret that I do live with is we had a short period of time there that we're like, let's do a project together, let's do this and make it happen. Because if we don't do it now, then things get crazy, and that it didn't happen. And I've regretted that ever since then. I'm like, oh, I just wish we could have made that come together and happen, because that would have been exciting.
Well, I've thought about that as well. And I know that we both prioritize, a few things. And it doesn't mean that what we were focused on isn't important. It just might not have been the timing. So I don't look at it as an opportunity passed up forever. I look at it as, maybe there's a more optimal time for us to be able to collaborate on that, and the door is not closed. Right?
Love to hear that. Yes, absolutely. Well, let's get more into what you're doing. And, the interesting thing, I'm working with some clients right now with one of their teams, and we are working on a lot of leadership, and there is a lack there. And so coincidentally, for those that are watching this on video, you can see Amy's background. The last couple of days at the gym, I've been listening to the Power of a Positive Team. And so tell me a little bit more about what you do in that leadership realm.
Well, I had the honor of a colleague when I was an executive for HR and learning and development at a company give me a copy of the Energy Bus. And this was almost 10 years ago now, not quite, but that was the beginning of a journey where I got to learn from and now with Jon Gordon. And Jon Gordon, if you can see this, you mentioned I'm the vice president of consulting for that organization and the work with the Power of a Positive Team. We created some training together related to his book. And So this particular material is now fundamental to pretty much all my engagement with my family, with, my intentions are to bring these principles and practices to life in the work that I do, and share them, because I've seen them actually drive the impact where there is a culture that may not be healthy, that may not, the leaders may see an opportunity to, they want to improve performance. They're not sure what's wrong, the current performance, the desired performance, the gap in between, how do they navigate that? They're looking at other people and saying, why can't they do what I'd like them to do? And, all the different thoughts that leaders have about their organizations. So the Power of a Positive Team is, 7 principles and practices from Jon Gordon's experiences working with all different types of teams. And we bring them to life by engaging with leaders and their organizations, and helping to figure out the right approach to training or organizational development. And do the same thing with his companion book, The Power of Positive Leadership. And that's more of a focus on the individual and leading from the inside out.
Athletes put a lot of time, money, and effort into the physical aspect of their sport, but they often neglect the mental game. And the mental game, it's just as important as the physical. In fact, it's often the differentiating factor between good and great athletes. If you really want to reach your full potential, if you want to be a great athlete, you've got to pay attention to the mental game. Now, come and join us in the Confident Athlete program, where you're going to learn how to develop powerful mindset, extreme self-confidence, and really take your game to the next level. Come and check us out at confidentathleteprogram.com/membership.
Right. The thing that I love about these books too is the stories that are shared, because I think it's so much easier to put them into practice and put them into your own life when you're not just taking the information, but looking at a story, an example, and how you can apply that to your life. How do you help others become better leaders through stories like that?
Oh, you're right. We learn through stories. I mean, history, also passing down of stories. One of the person that I, want to learn from, he told stories to everybody about things and parables. And so Jon is excellent at that, because that resonates. And I've actually looked at, and I'm getting to the answer to your question, but there are fantastic books that dig into research and just the validity, the reliability. And I do enjoy reading that. It's not as easy of a read, right? But it's interesting because it's about the evidence of why these things work. And some people don't want anything to do. My husband, he doesn't mind me quoting this. He's like, don't bring that big book over there near me. I want something that's based on a story, and I'll learn from that. And the reality of what I've seen in life and business is that most people tend to enjoy relating to stories. And so with every principle and practice, Jon has stories that he's lived and seen to be reality. And then I bring my own stories, working in corporations or in family situations, or myself learning hard lessons about where things work or didn't work, and collecting stories from people like you, because that's what resonates. I've had many people in companies say, you're not going to get me to read a book because I read all day, and I don't enjoy that anymore because I read proposals all day, or I read, just things, and it's no reading, no Audible, stop. But a lot of barriers come down when they're relatable stories. And now this doesn't mean that everyone's like that. I work with some people who, if you don't have the 6-foot thick tome of proof that what you're talking about has been evidentiary, kind of support, then it's not relevant to them. And I don't know, and some people read through all those research papers. You have to have both. And for me, what I've seen is what you said. The majority, they're going to look for, teach me through stories. Tell me how this is relevant. Give me some real life examples. Then you can bring in some principles and practices that back it up and make it easy for me to activate that material in my own life and work. So we definitely apply stories to what we're saying, to make things memorable, to make things engaging. And then we collect your stories. As we work with different companies, their stories are even better. I was telling one today, and someone said, is that even true? And I said, well, first of all, I wouldn't tell you something that wasn't true. So yes, it's true. And you can look them up. But real life is always so encouraging and inspiring, especially when it comes to positivity, authentic positivity through adversity, and what that looks like inside leadership and teams.
Oh, yes. Thank you for that. So just for the sake of our audience, now, I think leadership means so many things and it covers so many areas. And I want to get into that because I want to talk about your book. But let's just talk about from your training a little bit. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned that, just in a general speaking way, that you could help people become better leaders? What are some of the lessons you could share just from your experiences?
Definitely coming alongside people and helping them become the leader that they were created to be. And that takes some investigative work in order to, not that I'm the person that can mine that out of other individuals. And it's a partnership with all the challenges in life to stay confident, to stay encouraged, to stay motivated. And if you want to transfer those things as a leader to others, we start by focusing on, how do we do that ourselves? And so I've learned through lessons like other people. I've in teams and organizations, I've tried to share things that I saw worked for other people. I've made some mistakes in that too, just meaning the one solution doesn't fit everyone in order to help grow who they are and what's going to allow them to have the courage to test new things, try new things. And you have to have the right environment for people to feel comfortable doing that. And you talk a lot about mindsets. You mentioned Ryan Gottfredson. I will say Jon Gordon's got a new book coming out that's going to be amazing this summer. I'm so excited about it. And our role as developers of leaders is to give people an environment where they are able to become who they were created to be. And people, when they're overly criticized or they are motivated through fear tactics or humiliated, it is almost impossible for individuals to grow. And a lot of the connection to business too is that they leave. Nobody wants to be around that. A lot of times people don't feel like they have choices, but however, people will not stay. So in leadership, it's what things are influencing performance, and how do we create the environment where people can do their best work and uncover the gifts and the talents that they have to be personally fulfilled in alignment, if they're in an organization, with what the goals and objectives are of that team or organization. So it's supporting other people, as you know. It's not about the leader per se, and it doesn't look the same for everyone.
Right. And one thing that comes up a lot in my own things that I've seen and I hear people talking about, and I asked Jon this on my show a few weeks ago, and I'd love your perspective on it. One, what are energy vampires and how do you deal with them in a team?
Sure. I never had heard of an energy vampire, although I'd been around one and I'd been one before I heard that label. So it's when an individual has gotten to the point where they are consistently sucking the positive energy out of their interactions in a team or organization. And it can look a lot of different ways. But when it comes to that consistent, and that's not one time having a bad day, that's not having a problem that you're frustrated by, or even communicating frustration. It is being an obstructionist to progress. It is, being critical of ideas and other individuals to the point where people start noticing and they want to avoid that person. That's an energy vampire. Now, Jon has written some amazing articles, and I love his approach, which uses the word love, because we start by loving them. We don't know why. There's usually a reason, whether we think it's justifiable or not. And I used to think you can't say the word love in the workplace, right? As a vice president of HR, I didn't really talk about love a lot. You can have professional demonstrations of high degree of caring for your employees. It's very important, actually. And so the first thing you do, you said, what do you do about them? You put on that hat where you're saying, I'm going to believe the best in them in the face of all the evidence that they're just being, that they might look like they're just trying to be that way. Mentioning Ryan too, Ryan Gottfredson, he always asks the question, what if we just believed everyone was doing the best that they could? And so Jon has first loved them. And there's not an exact formula to how that's going to look with each person, because there are so many situational variables. But then you engage with them. You don't ignore it, because if you ignore it, it grows usually. And everyone else is impacted more by it. And especially if you might be responsible and accountable officially or unofficially as team members, we're all responsible for creating the culture. It's everyone's responsibility. It's not one person's responsibility. We have to address this. And that means having a conversation where you listen, probably more than you talk. You have to be respectful and give the person their dignity, and really go to that place of hopefully they're doing the best that they can. Let's figure this out. And they're going through, make a plan, ask them. G.L.U.E, who I also work with, she's amazing. She often brings up the Center for Creative Leadership's approach to feedback too, when it comes to when we're talking about negativity and energy vampires. And the Center for Creative Leadership uses SBI, and they've added another I recently, but it's situation, behavior, and then intent. So what's going on? What's the behavior that's happening? Factually based. Here was the situation. You were on the phone in this meeting, and this is not an energy vampire. It's a different, you're on the phone. So that was your behavior. The situation was we were all in a meeting, you were on your phone, and the impact, the first I's impact was people didn't think you were paying attention or that you cared. And then that final I is the intention. So what was your intent? And really delivering it with the best, curiosity and support and belief that you can, and opening up that dialogue with the energy vampire. Keep in mind, the energy vampire can be us. We can be the energy vampire.
Right.
And that you can do the same thing. Give yourself some grace. Like if someone says, someone that you really like or respect, say you called me up and said, we've been working together a long time, but for the past, 6 months, it hasn't seemed like the same you. And then I had to look inside, or I'd share with you, but I'd also have to go to work on my own situation and figure out what did I need help with, and how can you help the energy vampire? So I'll also send you a blog article, but the first thing is love them, try to believe that they are doing the best that they can. There will be times that someone who has gotten to this point may not transform, and you have a responsibility to your team and to the environment you're creating for people to do their best work, that if they are not ready to change anything about that you may decide, and they may decide to go do their thing elsewhere. But they're always, keep that door open to, transformation, whether it happens inside the team and organization relationship through support and listening and planning and uncovering maybe where the root causes are, if possible, and helping them to move forward by their own actions as well as support, or seeing where it might work better for them. And so your team who's still there, you can all protect the culture that you're building together.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. Now, you had mentioned, and I think what you had said was this was kind of your introduction to Jon Gordon, was you read The Energy Bus. You're the co-author of the Energy Bus Field Guide. Want to tell us about that?
Yes. So after one of the things that happened with the initial work I got to do with Jon's book was that we had some conversations about, just the fact that other leaders in the HR, talent development, organizational development field, and other business owners were already using Jon's book. And he wanted to bring that material to life for individuals and teams through a guide that would include, case studies, examples, kind of a booklet action plan with some of those, just ideas, activities, and put it all into a resource that people could use. So we got to do that project together. And it really helped to create connection between the stories that you mentioned a while ago with how individuals and organizations can use that work to guide transformation and improve performance in life and business. So we got to write that, and then we've been working together ever since, which is almost 7 years, I think, now.
Wow, very cool. And just for our listeners, I will have the links to all of these in the show notes. There will be a blog that has the links to it as well, so you can go there to get all those. All right. So one thing that I want to quote you on is you are the leader of your own life. Let's talk about G.L.U.E. I had the opportunity to read a pre-release version of it, which was outstanding. And so, yes, definitely the link for G.L.U.E. is going to be in the show notes as well. But tell us about G.L.U.E. and what it's about and why you wrote it.
Thank you. So G.L.U.E. is a short story. It's a book that's a short story packed with a lot of love. It's called G.L.U.E, a leadership development strategy to bond and unite. And it is about two women in business, and one decides to leave the business partnership and the kind of challenges that happen through that and how they work through and deal with the realities of that situation. Now, G.L.U.E also stands for God's love unites everyone. So this story includes scripture that talks about the role of the best unifying force in, our existence, which is the Holy Spirit and the Word of God. So it is something that, God put on my heart through the pandemic, because I am purpose-driven to help what I've seen in life and in business. In my role in business, I've seen relationships break down, cultures, be negatively impacted, vendor relationships get impacted, and just that ripple out into the families and communities of the people involved. I mean, it really was pretty massive. And I've continued to see how in those moments when some of those more common conflicts come up, there were some things that were common, at least in my observation, that were helpful in keeping the bonds strong, or even if something does go as there's a break, you can heal and have an even stronger bond than was there previously. When business relationships break down, it has far-reaching implications, and I've seen that impact careers, lives, families. So G.L.U.E is a story about some of those lessons learned and shares the unifying force of God that is included. If people want to read about that, that's definitely in there. And then there's a process, a G.L.U.E process that I share that has been helpful to me and to other leaders who have gone through team conflicts and or someone leaving their team. Because that's another thing I see in work is I've watched some people handle it pretty poorly when an individual decided, I'm moving on to a different opportunity. And even some of the most mature and amazing leaders just said, I'm over it. You're dead to me. And then all of a sudden started behaving completely different. And I think that we all know, no one ever forgets what it's like when you leave a team or an organization. You remember how you were treated, regardless of the cause. It's still an opportunity to show love, create unity, and that is good for business, life, body, soul, spirit. So G.L.U.E is addressing some of those things.
And it's the same thing we were talking about earlier, how much we can learn and grow through stories. And this is definitely a story that you can learn and grow through. So definitely go to the show notes, order your copy. It's an outstanding book. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about what Amy's future looks like.
Well, I am with my husband praying and obeying, going where there seems to be an opportunity to keep doing the things that I've mentioned of, we can all help each other. So where there are opportunities to use the purpose that's inside of me, continue to pursue that. We are going to be continuing through the year to share the Power of a Positive Team in public events, and I'll be parts of those, which is really exciting. We have a great calendar for the year for the Power of a Positive Team all over the country, which is completely mind-boggling. So happy about that. And then continuing to serve private organizations and do coaching for individuals. And excited too, you mentioned Ryan. Ryan and I are going to get to present at the ATD conference in San Diego, and then also at SHRM together about some executive, kind of the most common executive challenges and some of the things related to mindsets that we've learned, all based on his research. In my experience in the workplace, I'm not a researcher. I guess I'm a primary researcher in some ways of out there doing the things, but it's very different disciplines. So thank you for asking. The other thing that I'm so excited about too is Jon Gordon and I have been talking about a topic that is close to my heart. That's and he had already written about it. We actually got to have kind of a little debate one day because I said, I don't want to call these. He said, you've got to have the difficult conversations. And I said, I totally agree with you, but I just don't want to call them difficult conversations because you're predetermining what's going to happen by, it's almost like you're projecting a perspective that they're going to be horrible. And he said, well, you know what? And we were both like, difficult conversations don't have to be difficult. So we are working on writing some things about that. And hopefully there's, our next plan is he's got a very big book coming this summer and called The One Truth, and it's exciting. And so another book is on the horizon for me as well. And, those are the types of things, just looking to learn and make an impact.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And then there's that other project that we're doing together that we'll keep everyone in tune about that when that's happening.
Yes, that'll be exciting to announce.
Absolutely. So for our listeners that want to stay in touch, that want to learn more about you, besides obviously, like I said, in the show notes, in the blog, everything you can connect and follow. But for those that are just listening, share where people can find you.
Sure. Well, anyone who's listening that is interested, even if, I'd love for you to buy the book, but that's not my primary goal, is to get you to buy the book. If you would like it's a development resource and discussion guide for the book. It's electronic. If you're interested, you can email me at amypkelly@amypkelly.com and just say, I heard you on Jeff Hagee's show and I want that development resource, and I'll send you a copy of that electronic development guide. And you can go to amypkelly.com to find me. And then you can also go to G.L.U.E, Bond, and Unite. And I invite you to also look at Jon Gordon's website, The Power of Positive Team and The Power of Positive Leadership, and Jon's primary site. Those are all great places to get information on the work that we're discussing. But I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your feedback. And if you are on social, I'm not a consistent tweeter, but you know what? It's good to wonder, when's she going to tweet maybe again if you can. So I'm Amy P. Kelly on Twitter. And sometimes can be found by the same on Facebook and Instagram. So I like to watch other people's great news on social media outlets and constantly learn and be encouraged. And I go in, fits and spurts on some of my sharing, but also find me on LinkedIn. Same thing, Amy P. Kelly.
Awesome. Thank you. And like I said, go to the show notes. At the top of the show notes, I'm going to put the link to the blog. I've already done the blog. It's got the link to Jon's podcast with me, so you can find all those. And it's got all her books, all her contact information, so that you can continue to follow Amy and learn more from her. And Amy, I just want to express my gratitude for you and for your willingness to come on this show. And I look forward to continuing to build our relationship.
Thank you very much. I've really been grateful for what I've learned from you and the work that you're doing so far, and I'm in complete agreement. As well as I know people know who listen to your show, but you're the first person I've ever connected that was related to being in a rodeo. So singular of all the connecting that you referenced that I do, loving to bring people together, you're the first person that's given me the opportunity to connect people who were related to that particular type of event. So thank you.
Who you surround yourself with really does matter. The people you associate with and spend time with have a huge impact on who you become and what you do in your life. Hi, my name is Jeff Hagee, and I want to tell you about my Inner Circle Mastermind group. This is a group that's designed to surround you with like-minded high achievers who will help you to think bigger and amplify the performance of your business and your life while tearing down all the barriers that are holding you back. A mastermind is the fastest way to get you to the next level. If you're ready to network and connect with other successful entrepreneurs and influencers, go to coachhagee.com/mastermind.